All right. We got another show to do, Vincent. How about that? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I am Harper LeBel, along with Vincent Turner and our producer, Logan Landers. This, the NFL edition on week number 9. Some great games that we want to look at with some vigor, with some excitement, and with some ability to say, hey, I hadn't thought about that. We're going to start today, Vincent, by looking at Miami, who is 2-5 right now, going against the 6-2 Buffalo Bills. Wait a second. Why are you talking about Miami right now? Tua is back. First start for him in a while. He's been out, obviously. He played a little bit, but this is going to be a little bit of a different game. Miami is struggling right now. They can't score any points. Vincent, give me your perspective on why I would want to pay attention to this game.
Well, Mr. Tua, you just brought up a good point. He came back last week, had 234 yards in a loss to Arizona, but the Miami defense gave up 307 yards to Kyler Murray. That's why the Dolphins lost that football game. And the Buffalo Bills, 6-1 on the year. You know, every year we go into the season, and I was thinking this, Harper. Stephon Diggs left them in the offseason. I said, man, that's going to be a void that's going to be very critical to the offense. And they brought in a rookie. They drafted Keon Coleman out of Florida State in round 2. And I didn't know early on, was he going to be able to be that guy that was going to be a part of that offense and make him really go on the outside. Then they trade for Amari Cooper. And last week they went up to Seattle, and did not the Bills look like a Super Bowl team? Did not James Cook look like he was in form? And Josh Allen looked like he's having fun, hot fun in the summertime. Just like the great Sly in the Family Stone. Sorry about that. I didn't hit that note. But this is a Buffalo team that showed me something last week, that they Super Bowl quality. And what about Josh Allen? I like his swagger, man. He had the World Series. What was it, on Monday night? Up in the press box or wherever in the suite, drinking a beer. Star quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. Back to you, Harper.
Yeah, they seem like they're having fun, right? You said, they go on the road in Seattle, and it's us against the world, so to speak. Every coach says that at one point or another, but doggone, they played really well. Josh Allen has 1,766 yards right now. He's completing 64% of his passes. That's impressive, right? Here's what impresses me. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. That ratio is up near the top. And they're in the top 10 in just about every topic, subject that you can put in. They're close enough to be in the top 10 in every category to where they're serious at 6-2. 214 yards per game in the air, 122 on the ground in the NFL. This is not college we're talking about. NFL, you're ranking number 12 overall with that number. 28 points a ball game, that's 5th, but they're only giving up 18 points a game, that's 6th. If you can stay in the top 10 in a lot of those categories throughout the course of the year, not only are you going to the playoffs, but you're probably going to be hosting some games because you're good enough to be able to do that. In terms of Miami right now, it's just scoring and giving up points. They can't score right now. They are averaging 13 points a game. That's not on defense what they give up. That's their offense. They're dead last in the league, and they give up 22 points a game. That differential has to change. For them to go on the road into Buffalo, it's not going to be cold there. We know that. But for them to be able to do what they need to do, they're going to have a it's us against the world mentality. So good luck to Miami. When you go to Buffalo, you're 2-5 right now. You hope you're not going to be 2-6. The second game I want to look at, Vincent, is one that who would have thought that the Denver Broncos are 5-3 after week 8, going into week 9 against a 5-3 Baltimore Ravens team. I'm as surprised as anybody that the Broncos are 5-3 right now with Bo Nix behind the helm. They're not necessarily breaking records right now, but they're playing well together. They're doing a better than average job with most, but their defense is making a difference for them.
Can we say Bo Nix? Man, we talk about all the rookie quarterbacks, and we've been talking about Jaden Daniels over the last few weeks, Caleb Williams. But all I know is War Eagle, by way of quack, he's winning games. To be 5-3 on the year is very impressive. 284 yards last week, and they win over Carolina, 3 touchdowns. But you brought up a good point, Harper. The Broncos are getting it done on the defensive side of the ball. Patrick Surtain II might be the defensive player of the year. He's played outstanding at the cornerback position. And remember this name, a young man, third-year guy out of Iowa, Riley Moss, is playing at a high level. Now to my Baltimore Ravens. Last week, I was very high on them. I was talking about Super Bowl. I was talking about they was the most impressive team I probably seen all year long outside Kansas City when they had that great win over Tampa Bay on Monday night. But I don't know what happened against Cleveland. Maybe they overlooked at Cleveland. Maybe they didn't respect Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston had 324 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Ravens last week. I averaged almost 8 yards of completion. But this is a thing that kills me with football teams. This is very, very simple, John Harbaugh. Derrick Henry has been like a beast on roller skates. 30 years old, he's running the ball like he's 22 years old. And you only give him 11 touches last week, and he still got 73 yards. It's very simple. I'm 64 years old. What I'm going to make sure Derrick Henry gets at least 20 to 25 touches. And I got an 80 to 90% chance I'm going to win the football game. Back to you, Harper.
Well, you got to wonder, and they bring up an interesting point. Are they wanting to save him for later on? Instead of having 20 touches, do we give him 10 to 15 per game in the middle portion of the season until we get to week maybe 13, 14, 15? I don't know. Maybe he's showing signs that his legs are getting a little tired and he needs an extra day off, something like that. I certainly hope not. And I'm only speculating here. I'm just saying, I agree with you. Why wouldn't you keep him running the rock? Let him do so. He's number 1 in the league right now. They have the number 1 rushing offense in the league. They're number 5 overall passing. They're number 3 in scoring. The biggest issue that they're having also right now is on the defensive side. They give up 26 points a game. That's 26 in the league right now. So if you can get their defense to kind of make a stop or two, everything's going to change. They were 0-2, they were 5-2, and now they're 5-3. So the Baltimore Ravens, as much as I like them and expected them to, man, they're a juggernaut. They're just, you can't stop them on the run. They can throw the ball with anybody. But some different changes that they're going to have to make defensively are really important right now. Very quickly about Denver. One thing about Bo Nix that I really like, there are 4 different receivers that they have with 10-plus catches on the season right now. He's distributing the ball. Wide receiver, tight end, running back. We're getting the ball in different areas. The difference for Denver, like Baltimore, only in a reverse order, is their defense getting it done. They're giving up 15 points a ball game right now. They're 3rd in the league. And that, to me, is one of the difference makers for the Denver Broncos right now. And they are 5-3 for a reason. I think most of that is because their offense isn't doing a whole lot to lose it for them. Ball possession, get the ball in the red zone, good things can happen. But their defense is the one that's stopping their opponents. A team that we're going to talk about next that can't stop anybody right now. They can't get out of their own way. That's the New Orleans Saints. They're 2-6 right now after starting 2-0. Do the math, folks. Things aren't good in the Big Easy right now. They go to Carolina. Carolina's 1-7. And Vincent, if someone were going to say to you, Harper, why is this a top game for you? Why would you have these 2 knucklehead teams in the NFC South as a part of one of the games to watch? Here's why. Just think about it for a split second, just from my perspective. If Carolina wins this game, they will have the same record at 2-7, but they will be out of the cellar in the first time in 3 years in the division. This is going to be the upset. If they get a win here, and I think they can, their running game is pretty doggone good. I like Chuba Hubbard. He's got he's averaging 5.0 yards per carry. He's got 3 touchdowns. Give him the ball. I'll take 5 yards a carry in the NFL. You're going to get a first down before you got to go to third down. It's pretty simple math. Vincent, before I go to you, I just want to say I'm not rooting for either of these teams. I'm a former Falcon, so I don't like either one of them. But if I were going to root for anybody, I would be rooting for Carolina just for them to get out of the cellar for the first time in years.
I totally agree with you, Harper. If I'm a Cowboys fan by my blood, but if I had to root for a team, I'd be going with the Carolina Panthers. I still like Bryce Young. I'm pulling for the young man. I'm pulling for him to really have a good rest of the year because I still think he's a pretty good football player. And I like Xavier Leggett, the wide receiver. I think he's one of the best young players in the game. The New Orleans Saints, man, has time changed? After your first 2 games of the season, I was hearing from the Saints Nation all across the country, and especially here in Atlanta metro area.
Who dat, Vincent? Who dat?
Okay, and then remember after they had that impressive win over Dallas, what did they do? A lot of Saints fans that traveled up there to Jerry's World.
Who dat?
They
said, who dat?
They threw a parade after the game. And I even had Saints fans talking Super Bowl. But I told you who that nation, pump your brakes. I told you your coach was average, Dennis Allen. So when you talk about one of the coaches is going to get fired at the end of the year, he's going to be out of there. I told you once again, pump dumb brakes. And look where we at now. You're coming off of what, 26-8 loss to the LA Chargers. The young man, Lad McConkey, from the Georgia Bulldogs, had a field day lane wide open for 6 receptions over 111 yards. I cannot say I'm happy. Alvin Kamara wants out of there. And then I heard somebody, a draft analysis said he had Spencer Rattler as his QB1 in the 2024 NFL draft. Now, I'm not saying Spencer Rattler. I'm going to go back again, Harper. He had Spencer Rattler as his QB1, and I know you're going to be watching. You live down there in Key West. So last week, Spencer Rattler gets benched, and they go with Jake Hayner. So now you have a quarterback controversy. Boy, has things changed in New Orleans. Who that nation? One more time, the final time, and give it back to Harper. Pump them brakes. Back to you, Harper.
All right. Here's one of the things about this game that has an interest, in my opinion, for everyone to pay attention to. Derek Carr is questionable. His backup is either Spencer Rattler, or they're going to go with the third guy. The other injury to Taysom Hill, he's still not ready to play. Andy Dalton, though, on the Carolina side, is also questionable after last week's game. I think Bryce Young, who's healthy right now, and might have a little bit of a hunger to get back out on the field, a little chip on his shoulder. I'm not sure yet, but I'm thinking that might be an important indicator for how Carolina may end up winning this game. Here's another thought, though. Deontay Johnson was traded just 2 days ago, and he's going to go to Baltimore. He and a 6th-round pick go to the Baltimore Ravens for a 5th-round pick. So I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if he's got a bad attitude. They want to get rid of him. I don't know if they've got another rookie that is going to take his place. I'm not sure. I'm just saying they made a trade in the middle of the season when things were bad, and you probably need some help at wide receiver. They're going to probably have to make a move or bring somebody up from the developmental. But that was an interesting play, in my opinion. You're probably hearing things not only from Alvin Kamara, but the other side of the field, there's some guys that are looking to get out. So we'll see how that develops. But anyways, the 2-6 New Orleans Saints go to the 1-7 Carolina Panthers. 2 teams that have a little bit of a reversal from that. Chicago at 4-3, it will be going to Phoenix to play at Arizona. 4-4 Arizona Cardinals right now, and Kyler Murray is kind of catching his wind. I think this is going to be an interesting ball game. He has 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, but more importantly than the passing game right now is the Carolina run game. They're ranked number 3 in the league right now at 141 yards. Arizona, number 3 at 141. Vincent, where does that add up in your calculator?
We sitting here today and we talking about the Arizona Cardinals being in first place in the NFC West. That's impressive. As you just said, Kyler Murray is catching his groove a little bit. But I think we need to put respect on his name. His daddy was a Hall of Famer. Marvin Harrison Jr. last week, 6 receptions, 111 yards, 18 yards to catch. Let's put respect on the young man's name from the Ohio State. Now back to my Chicago Bears, my father's favorite team. They lost a game last week that I could not believe. I was sitting there here in Douglasville, Georgia, at Buffalo Wild Wings, getting ready to walk out of the place with a lot of Chicago Bears fans. They were already talking about next week. And the game ended like it did. Harper, I'm going to let you come in after I finish. I put a lot of that on the coaching staff. But as I said, I like where the Bears are. They're 4-3. DeAndre Swift is playing like a true Georgia Bulldog. Last week, he had over 129 yards rushing. Caleb Williams is still getting better. I'm going to say this about the Chicago Bears. Whoever is your offensive line coach, will you please protect him? Because he's shown you when he gets time, he's lethal, like lethal weapon. And this go to you again, Scout. You know what I'm talking about. I'm calling you out again. Harper, the gentleman I'm speaking of, I ain't gonna throw his name out there. He called Caleb Williams an epic bust. An epic bust. What does an epic bust sound like? 62% completion, 1,448 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 INTs, and his team is 4-3 and second place in the toughest division with Minnesota, Detroit, and Green Bay. Yeah, he's an epic bust. And then the guy gonna call me a Naziist. I love this. USC, Caleb Williams. Back to you, Harper.
They're 4-3. There's no epic bust about a team that at this time a year ago was struggling to score any points at all. And they were going to get rid of their quarterback. Here's what Chicago does well. Right now, they're moving the ball offensively. They're averaging 23 points a game. That's middle of the pack. 15, 16, right in that area. Defensively, they're number 4. They're only giving up 17 points a ball game. That's a difference maker. If I know that I don't have to score every time, I can play a little bit more relaxed. And I think Caleb Williams has done that. DJ Moore, he has 3 touchdowns. Rome Odunze, that rookie from the University of Washington, he's playing well. Cole Kmet, he's got 3 touchdowns this year. Getting the ball and distributing it, but we're also running the ball well, 117 yards a game. Chicago can play right now, and they're on a different plane right now. They haven't been there in a while, so they got to think about it. Do we belong here? Do we have a chance to win this ball game? Are we going to have a tip play where just on accident something happens and it goes up instead of knocking it down and we lose a barn burner? Those things happen. When they learn to win, watch out for the Chicago Bears. Right now, they're in as you mentioned, a very tough division. But once they get the Detroit mentality, the Green Bay mentality, by the way, that's the next game we're talking about. Now they're going to be in a different atmosphere. Let me look at Arizona real quick. Kyler Murray, I mentioned his stats just a moment ago, but he's also a part of a team that is averaging 5.2 yards per rush. You got James Conner, you got Kyler himself. He's averaging over 8. Trey Benson and Amari DeMarcado, they're averaging 5.2 yards every time they touch the ball as a team. That's pretty impressive to me. There are a lot of teams that are in the 3s or barely at 4. So they're the number 7. I said 3 earlier. Please forgive me. They're the number 7 team rushing in the league. They average 22 points a game, but they're 4-4 because they average 23 points a game. Better defense. Check mark goes to Chicago in this game, but Arizona can score, and if they're able to run the ball like they want to, that ought to be a very interesting game at 4 o'clock on CBS. Vincent, the game of the week, at least in my opinion, is going to be 6-1 Detroit, heading to 6-2 Green Bay. That game is at 4:25 on Fox. What are your first impressions about looking at this game between the Lions and the Packers?
I agree with you 100%. The game of the day. The NFC North. Somebody told me before the season started, and I kind of little disagree with them a little bit. This is the toughest football division in football. These 2 teams, I got Super Bowl type talent. I love both coaches. Matt LaFleur. I'm going to start with the Packers. I know he's happy Aaron Rodgers is out of town and he laughing what's going on up there in Broadway. Matt LaFleur is jumping like jumping jacks. You know how you jump jumping jacks when you were small? He got his guy Jordan Love, who we didn't know nothing about last year. But man, look how Jordan Love is playing. Josh Jacobs, they got him from the Raiders. Last week, had over 127 yards rushing. And most of all, they brought in Malik Willis, who was struggling in Tennessee. Shout out to the ATL because Malik Willis is from here, played at Roswell High School. And look at what he did last week. Came in and went 4 or 5 in a bag-up roll, 56 yards in a very tough Green Bay win over Jacksonville. And then think about all them playmakers that the Packers have on the outside. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, and then Jameer Alexander, who I love as a football player at the cornerback position. I love him. Then you look at the Detroit Lions. Remember when Dan Campbell took the job 3 years ago and he had 4 years ago, I believe he had the press conference and he said, hey, I'm going to have a team that's going to bite them kneecaps off. I promise you, there was 3 sports personalities here in Atlanta called him an idiot. But what you didn't know, I ain't going to call you out. He was bringing over a young GM by the name of Brad Holmes coming over for the Rams. Who you think put all those players together for Sean McVay over there in L.A.? Well, I'm going to give you some names that the Lions have drafted. Jamar Gibbs, Trayon Arnold, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, Sam Laporta. And it was able enough to have enough common sense to get that young man out of California. His name has been heard a lot here on 100 Yards Football the last 2 weeks. It's out of California. His name is Jared Goff, by way of the University of California, LA Rams. This is a football team that's got serious talent to get to the Super Bowl. Even though, and I forgot to put his name out there, and I hope he's getting well, Aiden Hutchinson. We send out our love. Get well, big man. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you this. I love this team in Detroit. I love Dan Campbell. I love Brian Holmes. Jameer Gibbs, over 127 yards. I'm going to tell you, if the Lions get down into New Orleans in February, and all the people I know here who lives in Metro Atlanta that's from Detroit, it's going to be old Access down there on Bourbon Street. Motown going to be in the house. Back to you, Harper.
You know, you mentioned something about that press conference that Dan Campbell had when he was given the job. And the first time that he addressed everybody, he mentioned the kneecaps. But one thing that I don't remember him saying, I'm here to win a Super Bowl. He didn't say that. What he said is we're going to be tough. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to be physical. We're going to outplay everybody else. That's my job, is to turn this football team into a tough professional organization. He did that. He worked on fundamentals. He did the basics. He worked on techniques with everybody. And the winning followed because they started doing things correct in ways that they didn't do prior to him getting there. That's the thing that impresses me most about Dan Campbell. I'm not going to promise you a Super Bowl like many, many coaches do. And no disrespect to any, that's what you're going to do. Hey, we're here to win. Everybody is. But what are you going to do to make the difference so that you can get to the Super Bowl? They were in the NFC Championship game. They were this close to having it happen. 49er comeback prevented that. You don't think the place – they had 270,000 people at the draft show in Detroit during the offseason. You don't think they're excited about football right now in a way that they haven't been since Bobby Lane and Doak Walker were playing back in the 50s? Goodness gracious. They're 6-1 right now. They go into Green Bay. One thing they can do, and you mentioned Jared Goff, is they can throw the ball. He's got 13 touchdowns. They got 228 yards per game. That's number 11. But guess what they also can do? They can run. Jamar Gibbs, he has 6 touchdowns, and David Montgomery has 7. They are the number 6 rushing team in the league. They're number 1 in scoring. They outplayed Baltimore and took their spot. Baltimore loses last week. They averaged 33 points a game. Baltimore averages 30. Their defense, though, they're number 8. They only give up 19 points a game. What a tough task. Well, I wouldn't want to play them if I were going to mention those stats. Well, guess what? Green Bay's pretty good, too. Jordan Love has 15 touchdowns in the air right now. 9 with Jaden Reed and 5 with Tucker Kraft. If you do the math, those are the two guys that he goes to when it counts. If Detroit has a way to stop either of those two guys right there, it's kind of like, to me, playing Michael Jordan. If he averages 32 points a game, but he only gets 26 against me, that's kind of a small win. Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, if you take them out of the ball game right now, I think Detroit has a better chance. But Josh Jacobs, he's playing well. He has 3 touchdowns, 667 yards on the ground this year. They're number 5 in the league rushing. They're number 6 in scoring. They're number 11 in total defense. This is going to be a great game. I don't know who's going to win because the two sides are so close. And besides, it's a division rivalry. They can't stand each other, and they haven't for years. So, Vincent, final thoughts about week number 9 in the National Football League.
Week number 9. You see the game on the screen right there, 4:25 on Fox. If you gotten all your business done, if you went to church, you've had that Sunday dinner, please make time to watch the Lions and the Packers. It's going to be a good one. And I want to give kudos to Jamar Gibbs. Remember about 4 years ago, he was at Georgia Tech, and he wasn't winning any football games because I know some of the young man's people. The young man is from Calhoun, Georgia. But then he goes to Alabama, and he ends up being a first-round pick. And now look what he's doing now in the National Football League. He's on a very good football team. And to all my Lions fans, I got to give love to you. Lynn Barney, Alex Karras, baby, Wayne Walker, as Mr. Harper said, Bobby Lane, Doak Walker, Lord have mercy. The Detroit Lions have a phenomenal fan base. And if they get to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, I'm going to say this to the Big Easy. You better get some food ready and you better get them drinks ready because Motown is coming. Berry Gordy and Motown is coming. And the Temptations, Berry Gordy and Motown is coming. Back to you, Harper.
They'll be bringing some money along with them too, won't they? Along with Cleveland and Jacksonville, Detroit is the only, those three are the only ones that have never been to the Super Bowl. They want to change that, and they think they can this year. Well, we appreciate you tuning into the show. A lot of good games to watch. There's some others that we didn't mention that you'll probably want to pay attention to as the season progresses. We'll get to them. We'll talk about your favorite team. We'll certainly do that. But we do agree that tonight, at least this week, that the game of the week is going to be Detroit at Green Bay. What a great game. We appreciate you watching the show today. Thank you for tuning in. So for Vincent Turner, for Harper LeBel, and our producer, Logan Landers, we want to say thank you for watching 100 Yards of Football, the NFL edition. We hope you have a fantastic week.